Yeah, I don't know where they are. Well, I'm online. Look, the BMX podcast is on break. It can only be geeking outside the box. Well, I was drinking. I don't know what I said to them. Oh, I said that. Who doesn't wish that their idiot co-host would disappear every now and then? People can't make people disappear. Uh-oh. Apparently, I made my co-host disappear, which means this is a perfect time to do a new episode of the work of art. I'm your host, LB. I'm an aspiring screenwriter, and this episode is really going to be heavily featured on the holidays. It seems like I only do holiday recordings, but the movie I chose this week, or this month rather, is one of the first non-animated Christmas movies of my life, and that is Home Alone. 35 years ago today, before he broke our hearts in My Girl and became Roman Roy's big brother, Macaulay Culkin graced the screens in this classic film, written by John Hughes, who also wrote Vacation, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 16 Candles, among others. This film has a legacy as being one of the more endearing and probably most watched holiday films of all time. I believe at one point when it came out, which is wild to think about, that this movie was actually number 3 in terms of the all-time highest grossing films of all ever across the world. That's bananas when we think about the context of where it is with Marvel and the Avatar film franchise and what have you. But that just shows how much this movie resonated with folks across time. So I'm excited to jump into it with you all. We're going to explore the character arc for Kevin McCallister. Really hope you enjoy it. Let's kick it off with the starting point. So at the beginning of this movie, Kevin is treated just like a kid, you know? He's the runt of the litter, literally. He's the youngest of his, at least 6. He has 6 siblings. Um, there's 14 people in the house at this moment. He's like the second youngest. Uh, Kieran Culkin, who I referenced earlier with the Roman Roy from Succession line, um, is in this movie. He plays Fuller, the youngest kid. Um, so Kevin's the younger brother, and we see very early on as they're setting up the family dynamic, people just don't seem to respect him. And why should they? He's a kid, you know? It's a lot of, oh, you can't take care of yourself. You need mom and dad to pack for you. Just, older kids being older kids. And so we're seeing this young man who is smart, clever, funny, loud, but admittedly immature. But not so immature like for his age. He's just, again, a kid. And so what's happening is there's extra people in his house. Um, his uncle Frank and his family, more on them in a moment, are also in the house because they're going away. They're flying to Europe for a European vacation that his dad is fully paying for everyone. And the family comes together. They're having having pizza for dinner. He only likes cheese. I understand that. My kid only likes cheese pizza as well. And after a little pushing match, literal spilled milk happens. Milk spills everywhere. And the entire family turns on Kevin. At least that's how it's written to be shown. And Kevin gets sent to the attic. He has to go to bed. And throughout a crazy string of events, including, a winter storm that knocks out power, because of the spilled milk, the tickets get messed up and some of them get put in the trash. A lot of things happen where they leave him behind. Hence the title, Home Alone. So now we have Kevin, who's been left alone. And when he wakes up, the family's on the plane before they even realize that this has happened. And that's our inciting incident. He is so upset with his family, not just because of the pizza, but just because he feels ostracized. He feels like no one cares and not respected, that he just wants them to go away. And that's where we start off. So now let's head to the journey. The journey of Kevin's arc throughout this film is that at the beginning, he's living a dream. You know, he's eating junk food. He's ordering his own large cheese pizza. He's watching movies that, he wouldn't be allowed to watch, not porn. Get your heads out of the gutter. He's watching, crazy old black and white movies, which again, why would this kid want to watch a black and white movie? I don't know. But that's what was happening. You know, he's doing it all, going into his big brother's room, looking through stuff, having the time of his life. This is what I emulated as a kid. Because, in the 90s, when I grew up, my parents, like, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, a lot of black families, they just left their kids, you know, to fend for themselves. Now, my family didn't go on vacation and leave me, it was more so, hey, I'm going to the store. I'm going across the street to someone's house. And I was just left at home, for a few hours. And guess what? When that happened, I put in a VHS, which is from a VCR, little cassette tapes we all used to have back then. I put in some cartoon movies. I would bake some cookies. I would make bacon or whatever. Like, I was just living it up. So, and I think I got a lot of that from Home Alone, if I was to be honest. But then as we continue down his arc, reality sets in, right? He starts realizing, like, oh man, in order to keep myself clean, I have to go in the basement. I'm afraid of going in the basement. Crap, we're running out of real food. I have to go to the store. How am I going to pay for this? I need to brush my teeth. He didn't bring money. Now he's a fugitive, right? Like, it's a lot of things starting to happen. He starts to realize, like, oh, being alone or maybe not having my family around isn't as great as I thought it would be, you know? So we then get the wet bandits, who are our bad guys creeping in, if for those who adhere to the Blake Snyder Save the Cat, right? Like, it's literally bad guys closing in on our hero, our protagonist, and raising the stakes. Because not only now it's not just about him being by himself and trying to survive that way. Now there are people, literally criminals, trying to break into his home, and who knows what they would do if they catch him. Well, they say it in the end of this one and in the second one, that they would kill him. So we see there's more danger here, right? It's no longer just oh, it's just cute. This kid's at home, but he lives in a safe neighborhood in a big house and blah, blah, blah. Like, he's in literal danger. So the stakes have been risen. And I think our midpoint shift occurs when we see that he realizes, oh crap, I have to protect my house, right? Not just because, my safety, but this is my family's home. And now I'm responsible. I wished everyone away. I'm responsible for keeping this place alive. And so that's where he goes into that. The climax, of course, comes with him setting all the traps and taking on the bad guys. And of course, he comes out in the end, because could you imagine this being a beloved holiday film if the kid died at the end of the movie? So he wins. Let's move on to the transformation for this film. When we think about who he was at the beginning, again, clever, which he still is, smart, loud, a kid, but he becomes more independent, right? He doesn't need his parents to pack for him anymore. He literally just, again, keep saying the word literally. What's wrong with me? He fought off a bunch of bad guys, He kept the house in peace. He was able to feed himself. The independence to an extent exists now. And he also has appreciation. Hey, when my mom goes to the store, my dad pays these bills, or my brothers or sisters help clean up and things like, he realizes that this all works as an ecosystem. And that's really the heart of the movie. It's not just like, oh, a kid got left behind, got to live it up, and then fights off bad guys. It's more about, does this person grow and begin to understand how he fits into the family dynamic? And I think by the end of the movie, he definitely does. because he goes from wishing them away to desperately wanting them back in his life. Not needing, because again, he has some level of independence, but he wants them back. And that's the real crux of it, wanting them there, not needing them there. So let's move on to the writer's lens. Exploring the work that John Hughes does, it's a masterclass in the idea of escalation being tied to the character. And he does a great job of showing us how Kevin has evolved just through the traps, if you really think about it. Think about the earlier traps when they're first trying to get in the house. It's him making the steps icy. That's basic stuff, right? Putting Christmas ornaments down on the ground. So when he steps in barefoot, they're stepping on the glass and it like hurts their feet. Like those are like kid things that like most people can kind of probably come up with. And then it kind of escalates to the point where you see he's using like engineering mind mentality, right? They're using the paint cans to swing over when you're talking about leverage and how long should the rope be, and can I secure this line to support a filled paint bucket at this speed and force. Like that's not just kids like getting lucky. That's actual intelligence and an intuition that they don't explain like, oh yeah, well Kevin got straight A's in science, or he's in this wood shopping. Like we don't see any of that, and they didn't have to, because we see how clever he is through the traps. And I think that was a really brilliant idea by John Hughes. Um, so I think another really good thing that Hughes did was having the character of Old Man Marley kind of act as a parallel to the journey that Kevin's on. Here's a character at the beginning of the movie when we first see him through Buzz's window is just like being dismissed as like, oh yeah, he's an old man, and they're making up all these rumors about him, right? Like he killed his family, and somehow he's just walking around salting the sidewalk and things like that. And then when we actually meet him and Kevin takes the time to talk to him, which is something he wishes his family or other adults would do, we find out like, no, he's just a guy who's gone through some things and he misses his family, and he's just misunderstood, just like Kevin. And guess what? By the end of the movie, he has a desire to want to reconnect with his family, just like Kevin does. So, a really good parallel in having the old man Marley character with Kevin. Um, let's get to some of our awards and categories. Let's start with Scene Stealer. I'm going to give it to the physical comedy that Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern, who played our criminals in the movie, exhibited throughout was phenomenal. But if there's any scene that stands out, and this is more so to my co-host John from the BMX podcast and Geeking Outside the Box, when they're laying on the ground in the house and Kevin takes Buzz's tarantula and puts it on Daniel Stern's face, and the scream he lets out is all time. It will never not be funny. And it's one of the most memorable things about this movie. Like, it is great. If I can figure out how to put that clip in, I will. If not, I'm sorry to disappoint you all. Go watch the movie, but it is great. So that would be our scene stealer for this episode. Let's move on to the rewrite. So these are things that I, again, as an aspiring screenwriter, and having this show as a way to hopefully showcase some of my understanding of screenwriting and film structure as I selfishly try to start my own career, give some things that I think would have helped this film, right? And so there's three things that really stuck out to me all this time. Here's the number one. We have already established Kevin's super intelligent and clever. He never just thought about going to the police. Like once he knew that criminals were going to show up, why not call the cops? You know, I just never understood. Like they're not gonna. He's clearly smart enough to know they're not gonna throw me in jail for being left alone. So why wouldn't he go to the police? I think a scene of like maybe once he hears like, oh, they're coming back, maybe he goes to the police station and again, talking about going full circle, mirroring how the family kind of discounted him early on. Maybe he talks to like a really busy police officer there, and the police officer is like, "Oh, okay, well, this kid's playing pranks. Like, we'll humor him." It's like, hey, kid, and, you have that thing, and then he realizes, like, all right, well, I'm not getting any help here. I have to do it. Like, it's only me. Maybe that could have been part of that midpoint shift, and I think something that could have maybe not only taken away a loose end, but even elevated it where it seemed like, okay, this is what happens, not just because he's not dumb, but, not thinking. It shows that, though, he's exhausted every option available to him. He has to be the one who fights. So I like that idea. Um, so more on the police. A lot of this is going to be police centered. The police get a really bad rap in this film. So the family told the police that there's a child, and this isn't a race thing, but I'm just going to say it. A rich white child who was left alone and is missing. They go to the house one time, ring the doorbell, nobody answers. And they never go back to the house to see if the kid came back there, if he actually is there, if something's going on. Like, wouldn't you, as a cop, wouldn't you at least call the family and say, hey, we're just letting you know we may break into the door, but we'll have someone come board it up if we have to. But we're going in just to make sure that the child isn't like unresponsive and dead, since you think that they're inside the house. They're just like, nobody answered the door. It's fine. Let's just go. That's bananas. Like, bad job by the police. Like, I don't know what you could have done. It's probably one of those things that you just have to suspend disbelief with in film. It happens a lot. I think about that sometimes when I'm writing. I'm like, well, can they just, it can't be a thing where it's like, shouldn't they just tell them? Because then those are like just bad story beats. But you obviously have to figure out a reason. Maybe there is a crime spree, or maybe there's a lot of cops on vacation. Like, just something to show, like, all right, this is why the police never come back. They have a phone at this house, and there's a phone at the hotel in Paris. Why is the phone at the McAlister home not constantly ringing off the hook? Like, wouldn't you just be calling to see, like, oh crap, Kevin's at home. Let's call, see if he answers the phone so we can tell him, like, hey, we love you. Do this. Like, they never call the house. I don't understand it. They call neighbors, but they don't call their own house. I really can't explain that one. It's just something that, as an adult, I kind of picked up on, and it's very weird. And I know I said 3, but there's one more that I just can't let go. Nobody has an alarm system. Like all these well-off families. I Googled it. Like, the first instance of like a home alarm system became really aware in like the 60s. And so they said by like the 80s and 90s, it became more affordable for like middle income families. This is not a middle income family. This is a upper middle income, born in low end, high income family. Um, and they live in this very nice area of the Chicagoland area. I'm from Chicago. I know where the Home Alone house is and the houses around there. It's all well off families. Nobody has an alarm system. Nobody. Like, the police should already be in the neighborhood, because these bandits have broken into like 8 houses, and no one. It's just wild. As It's just a plot hole that obviously in the 90s you don't think about, but now in the 2000s and 2020s, with Ring door cams and all the other stuff, it's hard to ignore. Um, let's move to our side character spotlight. And most people kind of focus on the mom because she's like the next side character in the story. I'm actually going to look at John Hurt's character, Peter McAlister, who played the dad. So we see the mom doing everything in her power to get back to Kevin, you know? She's pawning off her jewelry and switching her first class seats with people just to get on earlier flights to get back home. And even bumming a ride with, um, John Candy's polka band to get there. We need to see the dad doing more, I feel like, I think there's always this rush sometimes in family films to show like how devastated the mom is when something bad happens to a kid or the family dynamic. When in reality, like dad's hurt as well, you know? And I'm not just saying that because I'm a dad or I'm a dude, but or maybe I am because I am a dad and a dude and I feel things, When my daughter brings up stuff that touches me, like I get sentimental and sometimes I tear up, you know? I can't see the dad being like, man, my son is left home alone. I'm just gonna sit at the hotel, let my wife basically, hitchhike her way back to America and across the country, and hopefully she gets there. I mean, he seems to be a man of means, and I would think that, well, obviously he's a man of means because guess what? By the time she gets there, him and the entire family walk in the door 2 minutes later. So clearly he could have done things like, I just think like showing him doing more, right? Like telling family, like, I'm not just going to sit in this hotel. Like, just giving him a moment of struggle or showing him making calls or whatever could have added more to his character. Um, you know, last couple of awards I want to give out. There's worst career choice. Polka band, I've kind of mentioned them. A traveling polka band, I don't know. That I love John Candy. I just wish he did more. But I'm happy to have him in the movie. Just, that's fine. Um, the last award we're going to give out, the arc that should have been in therapy. So Uncle Frank, he's in both movies. He has a family of 7. Him, his wife, and 5 kids. Peter is paying for everything in both movies. He pays for nothing. He bums it at their house. He eats their food. He does all the stuff. And yet he gets to act like an a-hole to Kevin. Like, I don't know, man. Like, don't you have to be a little more appreciative? Like, don't you have to, like, shut up and, like, keep your opinions to yourself and just be like, I don't know, man. I'm just along for the ride. Like, I don't know. I just wish there had been more where, even if he's still a cheap skate, like, just have, I mean, I guess maybe it's not as funny. I don't know. I just don't like them. Like, Uncle Frank was a person in the film that when I was a kid, I was just like, this dude seems like a jerk. Like, I don't like this guy. And obviously that's on purpose, but there's nothing really redeeming about him. So I just feel like that arc probably needed a little bit of therapy. As I'm sure many people will need with the holidays around and you're spending time with your family, and maybe you'll need therapy later. I don't have a sponsor like BetterHelp yet, but there's always time. Man, I really hope you like this episode. Um, can't wait to bring something to you all in January. I don't know what holidays in January. I will figure it out or just find some movie that came out maybe 30 or 40 years ago in January. But I really hope you liked it. Again, my name's LB, aspiring screenwriter. Hopefully one day in decades from now, someone will be doing a show like this about something I wrote. But I really hope you enjoyed this. Please check me out on my other shows, Geeking Outside the Box, the BMX or Black Male Experience podcast. This has been Work of Art, and I will catch you all again next time.